Good morning, everyone. What we were discussing yesterday was different types of threats which are in today's world considered as a threat to new notion of security. So, and in under that section, we have studied about the threat of terrorism, then the threat of poverty, uh, threat of violation of human rights, and then threat of different kinds of disease. And these are all uh, causing a threat for the existence of human being. And this is all about the non-traditional notion of security, because it is not concerned with the security of the country, but it is concerned with the security of the people. So these are the new threats for the security of the people. Now we are coming to a new section, that is a cooperative security. In order to be secure, in order to ensure the security of the people, how that security can be achieved, how we can make the people of our country secure. So there are many ways. The most important way to ensure the security of the people as well as nation also, we can say that the cooperation is the only way through which the security of the people can be achieved. uh, in order to make people secure, uh, force has nothing to do actually. If we see that what are the threats to the new threats, what are the new threats to the existence of the human being, these are epidemics, health problems, poverty, migration. And if we think of the role of force in solving all these problems, what we find that force has no role to play in removing the problem of poverty or managing the problem of migration or refugee, then controlling the epidemics. These are the problems which are completely beyond the capacity of force. We cannot achieve anything by force in these regard. uh, to some extent, we can say that in order to combat terrorism, or if there is a violation of human rights, then in that case, force may be useful in order to combat terrorism or enforcing human rights. Force can be said to be useful, but it's not like that. Force is not the permanent solution of any problem. By using force, we can combat terrorism to some extent for some time. But if we want to remove these problems, such as mm, violation of human rights, problem of terrorism, these problems also cannot be solved totally by the use of force. For these, there is a need of change in the policies of the government, and overall positive of work done by the government will work. So, by force, we cannot achieve security. So, what is the option in front of us? The only option which is in front of us is to cooperate. International cooperation is very much important if we want to make people secure. And for that purpose, cooperation can be of various type. It can be bilateral. It means when cooperation is done between the two countries. It can be regional also. For suppose South Asia region, the countries of South Asia region may involve in any kind of cooperation for the purpose of achieving security. Then this cooperation can be continental also, for the whole Asia it can be done, or it can be global also. So there is a threat to the security of the people, and these threat can be, now we can deal with these threat by the cooperation among different countries. Okay, so in this cooperation, in order to achieve this cooperation, there are many players. We cannot say that only countries are involved in this international cooperation. For the purpose of cooperation, there are other players also. There are players other than countries also, and these are international organization. As we know, there are United Nations, World Health Organization, World Bank, International Monetary Fund. These are the international organizations which are really playing their role in bringing cooperation among different countries. So they are one of the most important player in achieving cooperation among countries. Then there are non-governmental organizations also, which contribute in this regard, and non-governmental organizations such as Amnesty International, Red Cross Society. Then there are various types of trade unions, religious organizations. All these are working towards achieving the international cooperation. Then there are businesses and corporations also, and there is effect of great personalities also. They are also many times, some personalities are so great that they also play a role in achieving international cooperation. We may take the name of Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela. These are such personalities which have helped in achieving the cooperation among the different countries. So it is very much important, if we want to make people secure, if we want to the lives of the people free of problems, so that their security should not come under threat, then in that case the first requirement is cooperation among nations. And force can also be applied, but the impact of this applying of force is not very fruitful. Sometimes it is fruitful. If we want to, there may be suppose a situation in which the government is killing its own people, or the government is completely ignoring the problems of their population, such as the problem of poverty, the problem of disease. All these problems are totally ignored by the government, or the government itself is involved in the genocide type of thing, in the mass killing of their a particular group of the people. Then in that case, force can be applied from the international community. And in that situation, force has a very fruitful effect, because by the using the force, the international community is stopping the government from killing their people. The international community is making the government to it should it may make the government more responsible towards its poor population, towards its population which is full of miseries. So this can be done as a last resort. And international terrorism, in order to contain the international terrorism, that is also force can also be used. By the use of force, international terrorism can also be stopped. So but here one thing we must remember, that the use of force can be fruitful. The use of force can be more advantageous when the use of force is sanctioned and applied collectively by the international community. If when the whole community collect becomes one, they have this unity against a particular country where there is violation of human rights, or where the problem of poverty has reached to very to such an extent that there is need of uh, external intervention. Then in that case, what is important, the important thing is this, that there should be collective use of force. Individual country should not, if the individual country is using the force, then it will not be that fruitful if the whole community is using the force against that country. So in this connection we can say that in order to make people secure, in order to achieve security from non-traditional threats, force is not the only force is not the first priority. Using force, what is more important than using force is international cooperation. Cooperation should be there among different countries, among all the countries of the world, in order to make people free of the new threats. But force can be used as last resort, and use of force will be more advantageous. Use of force will be more fruitful if this use of force is done by the um, this use of force is collective. Not an individual country is using the force against a country, but all the countries of the world are working as a collective unit. Then only it will be useful. So this now we are in the last segment of the chapter. Okay, and in this segment we will study about India's security strategy. What strategy is adopted by India in order to achieve security? Here, one thing you must know, that at present India is facing both type of threat to its security: traditional threat and non-traditional threat. Both the threats are equally causing problem to the security of the country. Traditional means there is a problem from outside the border also, and non-traditional, there is problem from inside the border also. And both these problems have caused a lot of security concern in our country. And in order to deal with those security concerns, whatever strategy is adopted by our country, it has been broadly divided into four components. And all these four components are used by the country in different combinations, according to time, according to circumstances. It's not that only one component is being used by the country at one time, but combination of components are used. Components means the way to uh, ensure the security of the people. What are the methods? What are the things which our government is doing in order to make people secure? And in this way, we find that there are four major components, and the combination of these components are being used by the government in order to ensure the security of the country as well as the people. So the first component, what is the first component? Is the a strengthening of our military capabilities. The most important thing, in order in when we were studying the traditional threat to security, the most important threat a country face is from outside. And as we have seen in the history of our country after independence, what happened, that we are surrounded by such neighbors that we have to face uh, four wars, in fact 5 wars, because with Pakistan we have first war in 1947-48, then there was war in 1965, then in 1975, 1971, and again in 1991, that was Kargil war. So we have to face so many war with Pakistan. Then with China also we have war in 1962. So in these circumstances, what is very much important for the security of the country, that it must prepare itself militarily. It must make its military capabilities stronger, so that it can face the situations of war bravely, and it can create a kind of deterrence also. It should enlarge its arsenal, so much so that the neighboring countries should fear of attacking the country. Then in that case deterrence will be created. So, and our country has moved in this direction only. And what we find that in the year 1974, the first nuclear test was done by India, though at that time it was said by Indian authority, by Indian government, that this test was done only for the peaceful purpose. But then again, in 1998, we conducted nuclear test second time, and this time it was very much clear that the test was done for the formation of that nuclear weapon. So it is very important in order to make our country secure, that we must increase our military capabilities. And India has done that only. And we have improved our military capabilities so much so that in present day, our neighbor countries are really they don't want to attack on India because of use nuclear weapons mainly. That is the main reason. So the first component is to increase the military capabilities. Now we are coming to the second component. Second component of India's security is that India always supported international organizations like UNO, and in directive principles of state policy, there is one guideline given to the government, that it should work in the direction of international peace and security. It will follow such policy, it will adopt such policies which will ensure international peace and security. So it is one of the most important component of our security, that from the very beginning, when India became independent, from that time our leaders were believing in international institutions, and they wanted to make the international norms stronger. And in this direction, the efforts of Pandit Nehru is really appreciable. He supported, first of all, he was against the this politics of blocks, which was present there at the time of after the end of Second World War, and the whole world was divided into two blocks. And at that time, what was done by Pandit Nehru, that he started a new movement, that was non-aligned movement. And this movement was based on the solidarity of Asian and African community. The countries of the third world should be united if they want to be stronger. Then there must be unity among these countries. This was the thinking of Nehru. And Nehru, because of that thought, this non-aligned movement came into existence. So this was the most important contribution of Pandit Nehru in the direction of world peace. And our we think that India's security can be maintained. We can be secure. Our country can be secure only when there is a peace in the whole world, and effort has been done from the beginning in that direction. Then Nehru was also against colonization. Uh, he was always against the any kind of colonization. That it should not be in any form present. It should not be present in any form. This was the opinion of Nehru. Then disarmament was also very much supported by India, and then UN was considered a forum in which international conflicts could be settled. And it was the opinion of Nehru that any international conflict should be settled through the United Nations. And that may be the reason that the issue of Kashmir was Pandit Nehru put this issue of Kashmir in the UN. So that caused a lot of trouble for India. Still, it is troubling, but it was his opinion, it was his idealistic theories upon which he was working, and uh, these are the basic this is the basic component of our security strategy, that there should be peace. The international organization should be strong if we want peace in the world. If we want our country to be secure, there must be peace in the world, and in order to in order to achieve that peace in the world, international organizations should be powerful. And India made all effort on in this direction only. It helped UNO in various peacekeeping force, through various peacekeeping forces. It helped UN. These are the things which are done by India. Then also India took initiative in bringing out universal and non-discriminatory non-proliferation regime, in which all countries would have the same rights and obligations with respect to nuclear weapons. In this, you must be aware, I have told you earlier also, that India has not signed comprehensive test ban treaty, and India opposed the nuclear non-proliferation treaty because this nuclear non-proliferation treaty is against the principle of equality. This NPT, nuclear non-proliferation treaty, gives the legitimate authority over nuclear weapon to only five countries. These are UK, Britain, France, China, yeah, Russia, and America. These are the five countries which are the permanent members of Security Council. And through this NPT, these five countries are the legitimate owner of nuclear weapon. Other than these five countries, no other country have the right to have these weapons. So this treaty is totally discriminatory, and it is based on the principle of inequality. India is not supporting this treaty because, in the view of India, this type of non-proliferation treaty should be non-discriminatory. There should not be any kind of discrimination. So India has not supported it, and it has made it very clear to the world community and why it is not supporting. Then again, India is also supporting a new international economic order. Uh, about this, you have also read in chapter 1. This new international economic order is the demand of the third world countries, because the present economic order of the world is in favor of the developed countries. There is discrimination. The all the international organizations are working in that direction, that only the developed countries are in the beneficial position. So India opposes that type of economic order, and it supported new international economic order that should be based on democratic principles that should be based on equality, and under which the interest of the developed countries will be as important as the interest of uh, the interest of the developing countries will be as important as the interest of the developed countries. Both should be equal. This is the uh, view of the India, and India always supported this in the world community. So, not only this, India have also signed the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol is regarding the problems which are created in the environment. In order to make our environment clean, there was an agreement was done among different countries, and 160 countries were there in that agreement, and India is also one among them. And this Kyoto Protocol was signed in 1997, which provides a roadmap for reducing the emission of greenhouse gases to check global warming. The main purpose of Kyoto Protocol is to check global warming, and in order to check that global warming, what is to be done, there should be reduction in the emission of greenhouse, and this greenhouse gases, how it will be reduced, uh, that method, that way how to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases, that is given in the Kyoto Protocol. And India has not only signed but also accepted the terms of the Kyoto Protocol, and it is working in that direction very positively. So, in this way, we see that India is has its opinion. India has also supported world peace and security, and in this way, India wants to secure its own country. Now, the third component of Indian security strategy is towards the problem is these two components, which I discussed just now. These two are related to the related to the traditional notion of security. These two are concerned with the uh, problems that arose, security threats that arose from outside the borders of the country. Now, other two components, these are related with the threat which comes from inside the country. And inside the country, the most important threat to our security um, is the militant groups which are present there in Kashmir, Punjab, then northeastern states like Nagaland, Mizoram. We find militancy is the most important security threat for India at present, and these militant groups are involved in various types of violence, and many times they demanded to break away from India. So India is a country which has adopted a democratic political system, and because of that democracy, India never suppressed the demands of different communities and groups. They are completely free to express themselves. They are completely free to organize themselves, and this is the reason that militancy. India is not supporting militancy, but India is supporting freedom. We are a free country, and our government is not against the democracy. That is the reason that these militant groups have not suppressed brutally, and this is the opinion of the government. It is the This is one of the most important component of our security, that they should not be crushed in an undemocratic way. Many times there were negotiation with these separatist groups also. So India is adopting the policy of making peace with these militant groups, and it uses force also. It's not that it only believes in the principles of democracy. It uses force also, but there should be balance between the two. And now the fourth component of India's security, it is regarding economy. The new threats what we studied just now is poverty is the most important threat. Then economic inequalities, then various types of disease. All these are connected to economy. So our government has uh, adopted such economic policy that economic growth can be achieved, huge economic growth can be achieved, and country can become be free from the problem of poverty. But even after 70 years of our independence, we are not able to eradicate the problem of poverty. Poverty is still there, and inequality among countries are still there. But our government is making effort in this direction, and it is never that the voice of the poor is unheard. Government pay attention to the needs of the poor. Government pay attention to their voice. So there is effort from the part of the government to how to combine economic growth with human development. What is very much important, that economy should grow, but human development should also take place. Economic growth will bring prosperity only to the rich section of the society. If we want that all the sections of the society should be equally benefited by the economic growth, then the government should pay attention to human development. And our country has moved in that direction. It is the one of the most important function of the government to combine economic growth with human development. So it's not that democracy is working in India in such a way that it is not only a political idea. To have democracy, to have equal rights, to have freedom, all these are political arena. But in today's world, we find that in our country, democracy is a way to provide a greater security to the people, because in democracy everyone is heard, everyone has their voice, and everyone has the right to raise its voice, and the government works according to the demand of the people. So democratic government is also a way to provide greater security, because it works in the direction of poverty alleviation. It works in the direction of removing the problems of the common people, and in this way it make the people of its country more secure. It help them to be free from the new types of threats, and in this way it work in the direction of achieving security. So these are the four major components of India's security. Now we will discuss tomorrow.